See enough to believe in me. See the sun, but it's here.
What about your desktop stuff? Is it for that folder? In a desktop folder, so I can start taking screenshots
Thanks.
as well.
All good, man.
As I travel this road of life with the road in light, where the slang is engraved with the slavery language, in the streets of babe with the pain of slave ships. Still I submit to it, falling stiff to it. How can I never get a fit to it? I see heaven at the end, I'm trying to get to it. Scared to get lost and I admit to it, so I stick to it. This routine, me and my constituents got it down back so we can live to it. With no love, no heart, not a glimpse of it. Rules cover the religion, hold it intimate. Think if we did.
You are listening to hand-curated music from Artlist.io, an affiliate partner of the Futur, music licensing reimagined. Click our affiliate link in the description below and support those who support us. All right, let's get into the show. I am Matthew, and you are on the Futur Live, and joining me in the studio is...
Mr. Ben Burns. What's up, everybody? Today we're talking about client calls and how to never have a bad one. So before we dig into the show, I want to know where you guys are from. So if you could throw your city, state, country into the chat box while we kind of get set up here, that'd be fantastic. I'm going to read them out as they come in, so let's hear it.
Yeah. Also, let us know, too, if the audio's coming in crystal clear, making sure you guys can hear us on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, what's up, Shay? Anybody that tags me is definitely going to get a shout out in the next 2 minutes. Malaysia, Waterloo. Majid, you were definitely the first comment.
Oh, we got Missouri from... Oh, we got Freddie. Freddie Teague, what's up?
What's up, Freddie?
Jeff Yang from
Pittsburgh,
Minnesota.
represent. Nice, Carl. Singapore, Estonia,
Philippines.
Dubai. I was going to say a lot of Singapore, but it's just one person.
It's just one person just spamming the whole chat box, huh?
Venezuela, Dominican Republic. That's awesome.
We got Canada from London. Dang, everybody's tuning in.
What's up, Matt with 2 T's?
Oh, man.
Justin Howell, Kentucky. Nice.
Wow.
Uruguay. That's awesome. Well, let's kick this show off. Cheryl,
Yeah.
do we have an intro? Let's do that.
Do we?
Do we have an intro?
Nah. No? Okay. So
Our
we're
intro
good.
was cut, and that's cool.
That's all good, man. All right. So
All right,
let's
so client calls.
let's get right into it. So Ben, what does a bad client call sound like? Because I feel like we've all been here before. Our
Yes.
audience has been here before. I've certainly been there before.
Yeah, and if you haven't been there, you're lying. Or you don't remember, and so hopefully some of this will jog your memory. So I'd say the worst client call that I had been on was somebody that was verbally abusive.
Oh.
Yeah, so we had gone through discovery, we had gone through all these different designs up until this point, and this lady, English was not her first language, so there was maybe a language barrier there. However, we had approval forms signed and a whole bunch of stuff ironed out. And then when I said no to her for doing more work, I got called names, there were swear words, it was rough.
Oh my gosh.
I've been through the ringer when it comes to client calls.
That sounds pretty terrible. I also have another, probably just as equally horrifying story. There was a client many years ago who every time we had posted and we jumped on the call to get some feedback, first things out of her mouth were, I'm disappointed. I was hoping that we would get further along than this. I was expecting a lot more, and that was pretty painful.
Yeah.
And she's just steamrolling me over every single conversation that we had, and that was pretty rough.
That word, disappointed, I mean, that's got to cut deep.
Yeah, especially I think for creatives, just because, all of your work, you treat it like your baby. It's coming directly out of you, and then for somebody to shame your baby or be disappointed in it is really rough to hear, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what happens when you have a bad client call? You have a lack of clarity, right? What happens? I don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
That's a big one out of a bad client call. You have friction on both sides.
Yeah.
You hate the client, and
Client
the
hates you.
client hates you, and that's not a good way to have a working relationship.
Yeah,
That is terrible.
yeah.
And then the last thing is you have a loss of control. They hired you to help them, and you've lost all control of the engagement.
Yep.
Right? They're just
Yeah.
telling you exactly what to do, and you just have no control.
Yeah. And, 2 other scenarios is you have more work to do. Or in the worst, you just lose the work altogether.
Oh yeah, and that's horrible.
Yeah.
So I mean, today we're going to be talking about how to run better meetings so that you get the most out of your calls. There's less friction, you have clarity, and you maintain control throughout the engagement. So we're going to go through a couple of points on our side of like our process.
Yeah.
And then at the end of this, we're going to open it up to Q&A and just look at some of maybe your guys' situations and how we could help you.
Yeah, and before we jump in, guys, tag myself or the Futur when you have questions. We're going to take screenshots. So if you have questions during our little presentation, we're going to screenshot those and we'll get back to you at a later time in the broadcast. So
Great. Okay, so how do you run a better meeting? And I think we've experimented with a lot of things over the years here at Blind. I mean, we've been open for 22 years, and we've had the collective knowledge of you, me, Greg, and Chris, and every other creative director that's been on through this door. And I think we've come up with a pretty tight process that we use on every call. And I'm going to start with the outline of what that call looks like, and then we can dig into each one of these very deeply so
Awesome.
there's clarity. So
I'm sure like everybody's like gripping their desk, like, waiting for this. And so on that, we'll vamp a little bit more. No, I'm kidding.
we'll
get
hold
into it.
the information. Yeah, no. So here's the outline of how we typically run our calls. We start with an introduction. Who's who on the call? We time box it so we know how long we have to speak and making sure that we are giving enough time per the topic. We have a clear agenda going into the call so everybody knows what they're getting out of it. We preface each topic with a clear goal that we need to hit. And we don't leave the call with fluffy words. We try to ask as many clarifying questions as possible so we know exactly what we're doing after we get off the call.
Yes.
But before you go into any call, you have to be in the right mindset, right? Mindset is so much.
It's huge.
It's huge. If you go in with the wrong attitude, you're not going to have a productive meeting at all.
Right.
So the first thing, you have to be present, and you have to be there to listen.
Yeah.
And you really have to quiet all the voices in your head, and you just have to be present as to what they're saying so that you can evaluate, process, and help them solve the problems. Right?
And I'm sure like we've all been on calls, even personal calls where you're on the line with somebody and you've been talking for 2 minutes and then they're like, wait, what did you say? I'm sorry, I was doing something else. And there's nothing more frustrating in the world.
Right.
And even if you as the designer ask the client, you don't ask them to repeat themselves. They can kind of tell that you're not like in there in the call present.
Right. If you're thinking about the next question you have to ask, you're not listening to what they're telling you from the previous question.
Right.
So the next thing, as far as mindset goes, you have to be there to genuinely help. You got to make sure that you're there to help them. They hired you not to make your art, but they hired you so that you could solve a problem for them.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. Like, you're there to genuinely help them and serve them, and and remember that. And then the last thing is keep your emotions out of it. I think it's really easy for you to get drawn in, especially if people start bashing your work. Just take a chill pill and just talk about what are the results? What do you need to focus on to make that better? So just keep your emotions out of it and really focus on what it is that you need to do.
Yeah, and we have some resources and exercise that we'll talk about afterwards so that you guys can kind of prepare for the call and get in the right mind space ahead of time.
Yeah. Sorry if my energy level is a little low and calm right now. Me and Ben were at Art Center yesterday and interviewing, a lot of people.
There were 37 people there?
Yeah. And I think we interviewed every single one. So I'm a little tired and I have a little bit of bags under my eyes, but yeah. Anyways, so let's go into it. Like, again, we're breaking down our process here that we use at Blind for all the client calls. So we start with the introduction. Who's who in the room and what's their role in the project, and why is that important? And it's important for a couple of reasons. One, you want to know who you're addressing per the topic. Oh, hey Mary, you're the head of marketing, so this topic pertains to you. Let me address you. Or hey Joe, you're head of operations, so that means all of this logistical stuff that we need to talk about, this is for you.
Yeah.
Also, you could establish the hierarchy in the room. Right? There might be 10 voices on the call. And if it's very clear who's who on the call, you know who's the last word.
Right.
And who's sensitive to one thing. So if there's the CEO on the call and you could tell that everybody's listening for him for his last word, if all 10 people give their opinion, I would address the CEO.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, the CEO, what do you think about all these things we just heard? And then you could clarify real quickly what to listen to.
Yeah, and it also, knowing who's on the call also helps you tailor the content overall. And so if we start getting into, like on my end, if we started getting into like details about web hosting or transferring emails over, and the CEO is on the call,
Right.
that's wasting his time.
It's wasting, yeah.
And so that's where, I know the CEO's on, I don't want to waste his time. Let's go ahead and schedule a secondary call to tackle that kind of stuff.
Right. You got to be sensitive to who's on the call. Okay. So after we have the introductions, everybody's clear on what their roles are, who they are, and what they're responsible for. We time box the conversation. Oh, do you have 20 minutes to speak with us, 30 minutes to speak with us? Because we want to make sure that we are hitting all the topics that we need to. Otherwise, we need to schedule another call later. Right. Also, again, if there's something that's really important that Joe, the CEO, needs to be privy on, like let's focus our time on him because his time is limited. Right. The other stuff could be side conversation. So time boxing is very, very important.
Yep.
So that they know that this is not going to be a 2-hour call.
And how would you phrase that?
It's like, hey guys, I'm so glad that we can get on the call today. Before we go any further, how long do you have to talk with us today? Because I feel like this conversation is going to take probably anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. Is that cool with you?
Boom.
Yeah, and then if they say yes or no, then we could adjust the agenda.
Yeah, and a lot of times this is decided beforehand, where you're like, listen guys, we've got 30 minutes, we have X to go over. Do you think this is enough time?
Right.
Because if it's not, we need to reschedule.
Right. It's also actually a good way, the other way around, where sometimes we'll limit our own time so that we could keep the conversation focused. Like, guys, I only have 20 minutes to speak today, and the thing that I need to get out of this call is very particular. So
just a laser-focused, productive call.
That's right. Which leads us into our next thing. So after we time box it, we figure out the agenda. If there's not an agenda beforehand, which we like to send usually before the call, like what we're going to be talking about, we establish the agenda right up front. So what do we need to get out of the call, and then what do they need to get out of the call? And usually we just kind of go around the room making sure everybody's heard, so we know what they want to get out of the call, and then we prioritize those things. It's like, we heard 5 things we need to discuss today. Can we figure out the priority of each one just in case we run out of time? And then later we could schedule another call in case we do run out of time and we go too deep on one particular topic.
Yeah, definitely.
So now that we have the agenda figured out, we preface each of those agenda items, each topic, with goals.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's super important too.
It is, and it kind of differs between the types of phone calls that you have. So if this is an introductory call, asking about goals for the business and the user can give really deep insight on the scope or just the overall mission. And so, I notice a lot of times designers will go and, just completely bypass goals and dig into aesthetics. And that's something that you want to avoid. You want to say, okay, you need a new logo. What are the business goals behind that? What are your users expecting to see when they see your current logo?
Who are the users?
Yeah, who are they?
Right.
And then later on in the engagement, you can also, remind them of goals before you start talking. So if you're presenting work, you could say, listen, I just want to remind everybody that our goal here is to get 10 million eyeballs on this certain topic, and that's why we're doing this campaign. So that way, when you dig into the deliverable, you can say, does this accomplish the goal that we talked about? And so it's just kind of a reminder. Right,
and I'm glad you brought that up, because there are different stages. Like you said, there's the introductory call. Sometimes there's a pitch or proposal call. And then there's follow-up and feedback calls. And those are all different, but you need to be clear about the goals up front. So that you can stay on track on every follow-up call after, because you can always point back to those goals and users and everything that they need to accomplish. So if you're getting feedback 3 or 4 calls in, a couple of weeks into the engagement, and you hear something that just doesn't sound right, you could always go back to the goals. I heard this from you, Sarah, that you chimed in and you said that this felt a little odd for you. And I heard this feedback. You wanted us to change the font on this, but how does that accomplish our goals? how's the user going to feel about that? And we always filter everything through the goals that we hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And this also will impress the people on the other end of the phone. Like, oh my God, last call, they were listening.
Right.
Being heard is very important.
Right.
And so, reiterating their goals, even if you ask for them, can be really important. All right, what's the next thing?
The next thing, and this is a big one, and this one's one where we can go fairly deep on this, is asking clarifying questions. Like, what does this sound, look, and mean to you? Because I think a lot of times designers, creatives, and including myself, will hear a word and will make an assumption as to what that means and run with it.
Yeah.
So if a client told me, oh my gosh, I want to make this epic video content for my event in 2 months, it's like, I got the perfect idea for you. I'm going to run and make something. And that's a huge mistake.
Right.
Because epic to you might mean something completely different to me than to the client, than to everybody else in the room. So really, what does epic mean? And that's where you can get stuck. If you walk away with really fluffy words like that, like simple and elegant and intimate, it's like, what do those things mean?
Right.
Because as a solo practitioner, like, you have to understand that for yourself. But if you're working with a team and you have to direct a team, they have to be aligned with that as well. You can't tell your team to make something epic and big. Like, what do all those words mean? They can't make anything on that. Then you'll have like 10 more interpretations of what that is.
Exactly. And if our users, if our viewers today have been following the channel at all, that we incorporate things like mood boards and stylescapes to prevent that mistranslation from happening. And this should be the first step. You need to ask so many questions about what that word means to people, because it can change. Like, one person's definition of epic can be totally different than yours.
Yeah, I think language is tough. Language is limited, but you have to do your best, especially on these initial calls, to get clarity. And if you don't have clarity, follow up. It's really important to just be crystal clear before you put pen to paper.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to waste time, you're going to waste resources, and you're going to get frustrated. It's like, I made all this work because you told me to make something epic, and this is epic. And they're like, that's not epic to me. That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I guess I'm sure a lot of people are wondering right now, how do you dig deeper, right? How do you clarify these things? Because all of us have been here, right? Like, we get this creative brief, or somebody tells us the brief on the project, and they use a lot of these fluffy words. How do you get around that, and how do you get deeper into that? So I think we could do a little bit of role playing here.
Ooh,
just for fun, and then we can involve the audience after. But I think right now, let's do a quick role play between you and me, Ben.
Okay.
You could play the client.
Got it.
You can make a request to me. I'll be the person listening on the other end. And I'm going to try my best to dig deep and get clarity before we leave that topic.
So to do a little setup, this will probably be our second call where we're kicking off a project for a logo. And so the goal of the call would be to kind of get on the same page on what we need and what we want. All right. So, hey, what's up, Matthew? How are you?
Doing well, Ben. I'm glad I can get you on the call today. I have about 20 minutes to talk. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. So tell me a little bit about this project.
Okay, so we are rebranding my juice company, and I paid a guy $5 to do it back in the day, and I need a new one. Okay,
that's interesting. Is there? So you explored that. What didn't you like about what he explored?
It just feels old. It just feels outdated, and I don't think it represents us as a brand.
Interesting. Okay. Well, before I get into that specifically, what is your what do you feel like your brand represents?
It's we really try to be forward thinking. And we really try to be on the cutting edge of everything juice. And we're really we're trying to give back to the community through our, buy one, give one program. And, what we're looking for is something really modern.
Okay. So I heard a lot of things in there, and I just want to dig in a little bit deeper just to make sure I'm on the same page as you and make sure I understand. You said that you want to recreate your logo so that it feels modern.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like to you?
Well, I really like the kind of hipster stuff that's been going on, with like the crossed arrows and the really tall text, that kind of thing.
And so what about that, about the arrows and the tall text feels like it represents your brand?
Well, it's new, it's like it's on trend, and we really want to be authentic. We really want to be seen as more of like a person-to-person kind of thing.
And what do you think that those arrows and the tall text represent that? What do you think it has that authenticity and feels like it connects person to person?
It's more handcrafted. It's more like it came out of somebody's sketchbook, or that it really there was an artisan behind it.
So are you looking for the handcrafted quality? Is that the thing that you're picking out?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you identified the arrows and the tall text. That's certainly some visual language that can be injected in there, but I feel like that's not the only thing that can feel handcrafted, right? I think there's a lot of things that could feel handcrafted, whether it's, weathered texture or specific fonts that we use. So it could be any number of things. Is there any other things that come to mind when you think of handcrafted?
Well, when we designed our stores, we have like rustic wood all over the counters, and we have chalkboards, and we have like different chalkboard artists come in and they do little drawings for us. And then we also, when we print our labels, it's printed on 100% recycled. It's printed, on this brown craft, and so, we want to carry that through to our logo. We don't want something really smooth. We want something that has a little bit rough around the edges.
Okay. I'm starting to get a clearer picture about, what that can be. I think there's a lot of possibilities there. I don't think on this call I want to define that so sharply, because I feel like you've given me a good sandbox to play in. I have a little bit of clarity on where I can explore. So it sounds like it wants to feel like there's some kind of texture there. It doesn't want to be very clean, right? It sounds like it's a little it's rough around the edges, like we were just saying. Maybe there's some element that feels hand done, whether that's some kind of medium like chalk, or the texture of that. So it sounds like. And then earlier you had mentioned about arrows and tall text. Like, is that something that's important to your brand?
No. It's just something I saw on Pinterest the other day.
Gotcha. So that's not like a mandate that we have those things in there.
Just looking for that style,
that
to
style.
be in that vein.
Okay. I think what we could do is after this call, let me think about it. Let me pull a couple of samples of what I think we just defined. I'll share that back with you, and then let's see if that's a road worth pursuing.
Cool. Okay. So, scene. Right? Mad round of applause for Matthew. He did great. So when I said modern, what kind of things went in your head? Like what were you picturing?
When I heard modern, I thought Apple.
Ooh, so that was like totally different.
That was very opposite of what you had described. Modern, you were going out down this hipster, trendy logo type of thing. And so what I wanted to do is unpackage that a little bit, because again, even that, there's a pretty big range of things it can be.
Yeah.
Whether it's the arrangement of the type, but it really wasn't that. And I was digging deeper. What it was really is just the handcrafted quality to that. And just like, so after several probing questions, we found out that it's not really about the arrows and the tall type.
Right.
It's about a particular finish and that conveying the authenticity of the brand, of this juice brand.
Yeah. And so, I used modern on purpose because I've fielded that same kind of thing where it's like, oh yeah, we want modern, and turns out they want a serif font. So it's like, those words, when you start hearing those key kind of like jargony, overused words, it's definitely time to dig in. But you did a great job, man.
Yeah, it's going a little long. So I just wanted to share a little slide that I had pulled from the pitch kit, which is one of our products on the school. But this is why you want to ask clarifying questions on the call. If you don't ask clarifying questions on the call, all these blue dots are possible things that you could explore. These are all avenues where you're going to spin your wheels, you're going to design something and make something, and you might not be hitting the target. But if you ask a good amount of questions and you keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper, the possibilities become very, very limited. It can only be these 3 to 5 things.
Yeah.
Right? And you have very clear parameters to work within. So with the call, it's like you want to get defined enough where you have a little bit of wiggle room to play with, right? And you can design within, because constraints is really what allows for really creative things to happen, really great solutions, right? When the world is your oyster and anything is possible, you'll drown real quick, you'll get lost, and you'll make whatever you want to make, but it's not necessarily aligned with what the client wants. But if you have clear limitations as to what you can design within, then it's a lot easier to make something that delights them and is aligned with their brand and their expectations.
Yeah, and I heard a saying is that in order to think out of a box, you have to know what that box is.
That's right.
So this is it right here.
That's right. Okay. I think I'd like to go to YouTube and Facebook right now and see if there's any questions that have popped up where we can start addressing them.
Sean Hampsey says, finally seeing you guys live. Amazing stuff. Big love from the UK. What's up, Sean? Great to see you here. See, David Louise says, this is what I need. Awesome. Shay is making fun of my hipster arrows. I'm sorry, Shay. I just, it was improv. Come on now. Micah Heading says, Ben with the curveballs, master. Yes! You and me, Micah. That's what it is. You got a question over there, Aaron?
Yeah, I've been writing down some of the ones that I think are good.
Okay.
Great.
It's hard to say. Okay, so what do you do if you get mixed feedback? Like 2 powerful people in the company give you 2 different kinds of feedback. How do you deal with that?
That's a good one.
That's
And
a really good question.
I think that goes back to the goals, right?
Yeah.
The goals and then the hierarchy of these 2 people. Let's just assume that they're equals, right? They're partners in a joint venture of a startup, and they both have a strong opinion. And they might sound a little different from each other. The way that I would approach it is like, guys, when we first started this engagement, we had very clear goals. We need to target these users. This is why they care, and this is what they need to get out of it. Your business objective is to sell 1,000 units to these type of users.
Yeah.
I'm hearing 2 different things. Which of those 2 things do you feel like is going to accomplish our goal better?
Right. And it also is, it probably is indicative of the way that you're asking the question. And so when you ask questions in terms of, kickoff and finding that creative inspiration, you want to ask really broad, open-ended questions. And then the questions start getting narrower. By the time you get to feedback, those questions should be laser focused. Asking somebody what they think about it is just asking for a disaster.
Right.
You don't want a personal opinion in there. And so the way we ask for feedback is we always phrase it, hey, did this hit the mark, guys? Did this accomplish the goal? And asking a question like that it helps the client remove themselves from the project and allows them to respond based on the business or marketing goal.
Right. They have a clear lens on both sides to filter feedback from.
Yeah. Okay, Bobby says, should you ask about the budget before you keep asking questions? That's a lot of time wasted if the client can't pay for your fees.
Yeah, usually I think inquiring about money upfront is really important because you don't want to waste anybody's time, including yourself, right? So usually you hear about the project, and usually I like to handle this via email. Usually it's Scott, our executive producer, who's fielding a lot of the potential business, and we go through a pretty deep a vetting process before it even gets to considering it being a real job where we need to hop on the phone. So he does a little vetting, try to ask a couple questions, what it is, when it's due, what kind of deliverables, just general information. And typically he asks for a budget. And then of course, their response is like, oh, I don't really know. You tell me,
Yeah.
right? Or like, sky's the limit. Right?
Fishing.
Right. Fishing, right? So what happens is the response to that is, oh, okay, well, based off of the deliverables and the limited knowledge that I know, we've done projects like this which could cost anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000. That's about the range. Does that sound right to you? Does that sound within your range?
Yeah, the range is powerful, guys. And, we've done on the channel, Bobby, you'll have to search because we've done intro calls and a billion calls about this specific thing right here. And what I did when I was on my own is probably within the first 5 minutes, if they're not able to articulate the exact project that they're looking for, you can say, hey, listen, our minimum engagement level is $5,000. Is that an investment that you're willing to make? And that's really an easy way to say, oh God, no, I was way under. And, if they're closer, then yeah, but let me tell you a little bit about the project. And so that is just an easy way for you to get on the same playing field.
Right.
Aaron, you got another question over there?
Yeah.
And you need a mic, dude.
Yeah, I got a mic.
Okay,
Okay, I got a question here. So someone asked, I'm very curious about what are the most relevant questions to ask in order to figure out what the client wants.
Can you ask that one more time? I'm sorry.
What are the most relevant questions to ask in order to figure out what the client wants? Like how to really get to it. What's a good, like a script, like good questions that you guys use a lot?
Well, I think honestly the best answer to that question that we have is the strategy kit that we sell. That will get to the bottom of any deliverable, any thing that you're going to make. It's a series of questions that you ask about the brand, the user, all sorts of stuff.
Right.
In an intro call, if you play the tape back and listen to Matthew, that was an excellent way to get a creative brief.
Right.
And so what are some of the questions that you were asking me?
Some of the questions were very open-ended, right? You said some kind of buzzword that I heard or some coded language there that I felt like had many meanings. And I wanted to dissect that and essentially play 20 questions with that. So if you guys are familiar, is it 20 questions or 21 questions where you think of a person in your head and then you have 21 questions to guess who that person is?
Right.
If you're guessing Homer Simpson on the first question, then you are asking the wrong question, right?
Yeah.
Like what you want to do is you want to dissect that in half every single time. Every time you ask a clarifying question,
Right.
Male or female, dead or alive,
Yeah.
fictional or real, right?
Right.
You're cutting those possibilities in half every time. So when you ask these questions, you want to ask open-ended questions and then just narrow it down with every question until you chisel down.
Right.
That's how you can get specifics for clarity when you get feedback, when you hear those kind of coded language that has potentially a lot of meanings to different people. Just be open and make sure you understand what that means.
Yep. Another thing is I ask for examples. And so,
That's a great
when
one.
somebody says modern, like, okay, what does that mean to you? Do you have an example of that? And so that way you're you're asking for the Rosetta Stone, right? You're asking them to translate the language into something visual. And typically somebody can do that, especially somebody that's out shopping for a logo. They already know things that they want to emulate or they want to, kind of base off of. So that's another thing. I have a question from Micah. It says, Matthew, when you said at the end of the role play, pull samples for the client to view, are you talking about example logos, textures, mood boards? What are you talking about there?
All of those things. I think all of those things. So what I want to avoid is, especially early on in the engagement, is doing free original work. Like I don't want to start making any original logos right away until I can really hone in what it is that we need to make. So after the initial kickoff call, what I'll do is I'll either pull mood boards or like write little paragraphs of what I think I heard and how I've understood and translated that into a visual language, and then present some mood boards after that kind of capture what it is I heard, some of the qualities, right? The maybe the hand painted things, the chalk art, some potential examples that already encompass those things, different fonts that I think are within the range of what you had described to me as far as that, authentic mom and pop kind of shop look, right? So those are all things that I would pull together visual reference for if they don't have it in their head, represent that, and then discuss with them. It's like, here's what I heard, here's what I thought, and let's just discuss these. And I try not to direct them too much at that point. I let them react to it, because you'll be surprised. Like, some people will gravitate towards one thing right away, or hate something right away, real quick. They could look at a mood board and be like, oh, I really love that top left corner image right there. Like, that's the thing. Like, that feels great. But I also love the colors of this bottom right thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just let them talk and you just listen. And you don't try and direct so much. It's like, you just frame the conversation. Here's what I heard last time. Here's what I've pulled to represent that. I'd like to just have this as a conversation starter with you to see if we're on track.
Yeah. So Sam asked another question, kind of related. Should we follow up with an email just for confirmation and black and white record? And quick answer is yes.
Absolutely. I do that every call.
Yes. I mean, you want to make sure to kind of recap what the client says on the call, but also you need to be writing notes or typing notes, or have somebody in the room with you that does that, and then send a black and white version to the client. Say, hey, this is what I understood. Can you just read through and make sure that I got the right message? I think this is all part of what Chris Do calls scaffolding. Sending examples, doing stylescapes. It's all about scaffolding.
Regarding that, sending the recap, I like that a lot, because I actually turned that around and use that as my creative brief for my designers, my team. So like, I have that, here's what I heard, here's what it can be, here are the parameters that I need to work within, and here's the next steps, here's what we need to do, and here's what we're expecting from you.
Right.
Are you guys all good with this? You feel free to add or edit to that list. And then usually they'll make little tweaks. It's all good. Great. And I turn around and then I tell my team, here's the creative brief, guys. It has to do this. Here are the users. Here are the parameters you guys could work within. Make sure that whatever you create hits this checklist of parameters to work within.
So Luvo asks, when you put money up front, doesn't that give a greedy impression on your client? This is a good question, because I think that this is the way a lot of designers feel. Hey, if I talk about money, am I going to be viewed as this like corporate, gross person to deal with? And if you're dealing with a very, very, very small client, it might. But I would argue that it's just going to put a professional spin on the rest of the conversation. And when you talk to business people, they're going to respect you for putting money right up front.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think... I mean, I've been there before where I was very uncomfortable with throwing out budget ranges or numbers like that, because I don't want to scare them off. I think it has to be a nice mix of, I'm trying to provide some value to you. Let me inquire a little bit about your project so I understand the base level. Let me give you a range. Let me react to that so you know if we're in the same ballpark. Otherwise, I'm wasting your time.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to waste your time as the client, right? The time is the most valuable thing to anyone.
Got a good question over here.
Oh, okay. It sounds like it's hot. Paper's on fire over there. Ooh.
Yeah, like a lot of people have been asking this, so I thought I'd ask you guys. But they want to know, how do you deal with a client that doesn't know what he wants? Like, how can you draw it out of him, or I don't know. How do you deal with that? A common phrase is like, I don't know what I want, but I'll know it when I see it.
Okay, so this is a dangerous situation. This client is somebody that will waste a lot of your time if you let them. And so the mission is they know something, right? They know something about their business. They know something about their users. They know something about what kind of brand that they're emulating. Or, a lot of times it's easier for somebody to tell you what they don't like.
Right.
I hate this. I hate this. That list is really easy for a lot of people.
Right.
And so you just start trying to find that area that he's comfortable talking about.
Right.
So if it's like, tell me about your customers. How do they dress? What kind of brands do they wear? What are the demographics? And you start digging in deeper onto the things that he does know. Figuring out what that mission should be a little easier. What do you think?
It's definitely a dangerous situation, but that's why I like taking steps where I'm trying to iterate with every call, with every meeting, and just, again, cut that pie in half so I understand, or cut that target in half. So it's very, very narrow of what it is that we do. So first call, obviously, it's all verbal, right? It's all words, and my job is to translate those words into some kind of image or some kind of executable, right?
Right.
So that's why I do the first pass. Again, really, really easy work for me to just pull some samples from Pinterest or any blogs or things that come to mind based off of the words that we've established.
Right.
Because maybe that's what he's limited to, and then we take it from there. I use that to start a conversation, a visual conversation. He can't articulate that. That's why he hired me, right? Or he or she, the client had hired me.
Yeah.
So now that I have that first thing for them to react to, I could tell right away what they like, what they don't like. If they hate it all, then I want to go back. It's like, great, this was my first pass. This was what was in my head. Again, I didn't make any original work yet, so I'm not really stressing out about anything.
Exactly.
What did you see in your mind? And again, like usually by that point, if they see all the things that they hate, they could start describing the things that they do like.
Right.
So it's all about having a conversation with them,
Yeah.
whether that's through words or through pictures, and then you just kind of keep playing with that relationship. And
Exactly. The worst thing is to take a client like that and then go and design something
Yes.
off of, I don't know. I'll know it when I see it. So don't do that. By God, don't do that.
Right.
What's up, Aaron? You got another one?
Yeah, I got another good one. So this one's also been pretty popular. So how do you handle a client, that wants to throw in like friendship in the mix?
What's what?
Throw in friendship to the mix. Can you clarify that question?
Clarify that a little. Well, the exact question was, how do you handle? Oh, sorry, one sec. Got a lot of questions here.
Aaron's over there with
friendship
with
in the mix.
pen
Like,
and paper
they want to build
flying.
a long-term relationship. Like, what I'm understanding is they want to build a long-term relationship with you,
Okay.
and maybe even slightly kind of a personal one. Like they're your friend. They're gonna give you a lot of work.
Okay. I'm gonna take friendship out of that.
There's two. Yeah, I heard two questions, but
I'll respond to the way that I understand the question, being, listen, I want to give you tons of work. We're going to build this whole brand together. We're going to be best friends. We're going to do like amazing things together. We're going to revolutionize coffee. And that's the carrot.
Yeah, I'm dangling the carrot in.
That's the carrot. That is an easy way for clients to say, oh, look, can you do this for free? Just because when I start making money, I'll give you way more work.
Then I'll give you more work, right? Like this one, I can't pay you a whole lot, but then the next one, the next 10, I'll give you a lot.
Yeah, that's a walk away situation if you can't get them to put a budget on the job.
Right.
You don't want to do work for free because getting somebody to pay more is always more difficult than getting somebody to pay less. And so from going to zero to however much you want to charge for the later stuff, it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, usually we just say no to that stuff. If we can't make our normal profits on a one-off job with nothing else promised down the line, we just walk away or we just stick firm to our number.
Yep.
It's like we have to make our margins. Like you understand, you're a business owner yourself, and I can't just jump into this engagement knowing that we're going to go in it with a loss.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense. Like I really like you, I like your brand, and I like what you stand for, but this just doesn't make sense business-wise for me. It's nothing personal. It's a business decision. And usually the other option would be, okay, I understand like maybe this one job is you don't have a whole lot of money for, but can we package this? Can we do 10 of these? Because I think there's some cost savings if I'm able to bring in a team. There's some, there's a term for it that Chris uses and it's escaping me right now. But if we're able to do 10 of these, there's going to be a little bit of efficiency on my end where we could keep all of these jobs relatively smaller in price, and we can do them all for you. Can you sign off on doing 10 of these at once?
Right.
If they can't, then it's just like, well, we'll just walk away. It just doesn't make sense. It's not worth the stress.
Yeah.
And it's just a business decision. It's not a personal thing at all.
Right. Now, if it's a friend that you're doing work for, you just have to look at it like you're going to do this for free because it's your buddy.
Right.
And that's it. And then when you're doing free work for a buddy, a buddy of mine is waiting on business cards from me, and he's been waiting for probably 6 months. Right. And it's just like, dude, I'm doing this for free. What do you want?
Right.
So
either take your full rate or take no money.
Exactly.
Right. Like you're doing it as a favor. So then they can't hang any. They can't hang anything over your head. It's like, well, I gave you, half your rate. Like you said you were going to do it. I gave you $100. You said you were going to make my logo. I was like, I'm
friends
not
and family
anything.
discount. It's usually 100%.
You just exactly. You just don't don't ask for money.
Edon, $40. Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Wow, that's a big one.
Does he have
That's
something
awesome.
to ask?
No question. It's just
Please
he
ask
just
a
loves
question, man, because that's definitely worth it.
Woo. Okay. Let's
Alright.
take more questions.
What's
I
next?
got another good one.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. So someone asked, how do you handle the situation when you're on the call with like a team like you guys do, and one of your team member people keeps trying to push their agenda onto the client, and the client, you get the vibe, he's clearly not into what that one guy's his vibe is. He's really pushing for something. How can you like kind of wrangle your own team? Like, is there any
I
of
think
that going on?
yeah. What's the bell for?
The mute button.
The mute button.
It's powerful, man.
It's like, hey, shut up, man.
Yeah.
What are you doing,
Dude.
No, but that's I think that's what we would do in the past here at Blind, but sometimes we'll do like little hand gestures like, hey, Caleb, but they'll keep going down that road, or they're just like so focused on what they have to say. But we're super comfortable with our team here, and what we end up doing is like we're very transparent and open on the calls.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, Ben, like I hear you going down this path, and I hear Mark on the other end. He's not, it doesn't sound like he's reacting to that. Mark, I'm addressing the client.
Right.
Is what Ben's saying, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Is that clear? Like I'll just stop it right there.
Yep.
And then so like me and the other team member, like I don't have to have a sidebar with him at all. It's just like, look, it sounds like he's getting into the weeds. Is that cool?
Yeah.
And then we'll know right away. We'll clarify. You're just a third party here, and you're just trying to clarify. Is what he's saying? Does that make sense to you? Is that worth pursuing? Otherwise, we'll just move the conversation along. Let's get back on topic. Let's go back to our agenda, our goals, everything, and then everything's all copacetic.
Exactly. Namiko, thank you. $10.
Wow.
Awesome. No question. They just love us.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Okay. MYXL, I'm going to say just Mixel, says, how do you walk away from a job graciously? It's a good question.
Graciously. I guess, what's the situation? Like, are you already engaged? Like, have you done some of the work and you're walking away? Or it's an upfront and you realize it's not hitting your bare minimum, at your minimum level of engagement, and you just need to walk away? So
go ahead and answer that question. Are you already engaged in the job, or are you walking away from a lead? I'm going to address the lead thing. So a lot of times, clients can't afford us, and that's okay, because there are a lot of designers all over the world that they can work with. And we don't want to stretch budgets. We don't want to destroy finances or empty out their wallets. So, a really great way to say that is, listen, we're probably not on the same budget level. We're not on the same, ballpark. And so we're probably not a good fit for this project. Right. Thanks so much for your time. I have some, references, there are referrals that I can make for you. If you're interested in that, let me know.
Right.
That's it.
I think if you're in the engagement, which we've had to do a couple of times, where you're firing your own client, I think just be honest and clear with them. It's like, look, we've gone through a couple of rounds with this. Yep. I feel like we're hitting some dead ends here. I feel like we're not making any breakthroughs. I don't know. It's probably me. Don't blame them for anything. It's probably me. I feel like maybe we're not on the same wavelength as you, and I feel like I'm not serving you genuinely. I feel like I'm wasting your money, and what I'd like to do is probably end the relationship here. We'll just bill for all the work that's being completed right now, and I just don't want to waste any more of your time and effort, because I feel like I'm not able to do right by you. Yep. So I think that's an easy way to walk away from that.
Yeah. Something that I struggle with, and it sounds like you struggle with too, is caring about what people think. And you have to be just honest with the client at that point, or with the lead, and just say, I'm sorry, and that's it. No sweat off your back.
Right.
This is a bad project you're walking away from, or it's not a qualified lead that needs to go any farther, and that's okay. So don't care what they think, and just be honest and nice.
Right.
All right, so let's find another question. Chris said economies of scale.
Economies of scale. Thank you, Chris.
Economies of scale is the word that you were looking for.
I got another good one if you need one.
For those of you guys who are asking where Chris is, he's on the way to NAB. He's going to be there early next week. So he's in the chat, though, so hit him up.
He should be working on his keynote, but maybe he's doing both at the same time. He's giving 5 talks, I think, over
Yeah,
at Innovation.
5
so
talks.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I could barely manage one. I could barely manage this live session right now. So he's a trooper, man. He's a machine.
All right, let's take a couple more questions.
Okay, so I got 2 here. One
All right.
of them, a lot of people have been asking, but I feel like maybe it's been answered before by Chris.
Oh,
but
Ben, thank you for $10.
the
No question though, so keep going.
okay, so it's how to deal with a client that offers you like this is going to be good for your portfolio and exposure. This is going to help you get more eyes on your work.
Just say no.
Yeah, that's another carrot.
Right? A lot of people ask that, but I feel like the simple answer is
It's just say no. Like,
Yeah.
does that make sense for you?
Yeah, I mean,
I have a
everybody thinks that they get this one project that makes them. Being able to predict that if it happens is impossible, right? And so hearing that from a client is a red flag and it's a carrot, and you should avoid it if possible.
Yeah, and if you're willing to do free work at whatever stage you're at, like let's say you have not much work in your portfolio and you're looking for something big to put in there, if you're going to do the free work, make it your own project, make it your dream project, something that you would love to do, something that you're so passionate about that you will go and not sleep for a week working on that thing just because you've lost track of time because of how much you love it.
Yes.
Just make something amazing on your own. Why do you have to do it for someone else? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Edon, 400, thanks, man. I don't know that currency symbol, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
That's awesome.
And they do have a question. It says, you guys are my mentors, and I follow all the ethics and professionalism you teach. I find it hard to apply and charge my clients in India. Sometimes I get underpaid for the work I do. What is your suggestions on this? Edon, I think I'm a little confused. Are you underpaid because you agree to take on lower price projects, or are you underpaid because the clients aren't paying for the bill? That's something to, if you can respond, that'd be fantastic. But let's say that you're taking on lower priced work than you need to. How would you handle that?
Stop taking on lower price work eventually. I mean, it's hard for us to speak. Like, we're here in an environment, in a community where design is lucrative here, right? So it's really hard for me to speak about these situations elsewhere. I could only speak about our situations, the struggles we've dealt with, because we've been there. It's maybe a universal thing, but eventually we kind of push through that threshold and we're able to get the rates and things that we wanted, and that's through many years of practice and working through it.
So saying no is extraordinarily hard. I know this because I was in your shoes before, and it's just a hard thing to do. But something that Casey Neistat said on one of his vlogs kind of stuck with me, and that is, say you're swinging through the jungle on vines. It's really, really hard to grab that next vine if you're still holding on to the one that you were previously holding on to. You're not going to swing forward. And so you have to say no often. And I think that's in Win Without Pitching. You have to say no often in order to make space for the yes.
Right.
And so start there. All right, we got a couple of more donations. Adam, $5. Thank you. Eli, $10. All right, he's got a good question.
Ooh.
How do you push your client to take more risks to prevent the work from getting stale?
Yeah, I wanted to jump on that because I feel a lot of questions have been very similar to that. Like, if a client just kind of wants it done, they don't care how it looks, or what you just said, kind of how do you deal with those?
Whose prerogative is it to make it more interesting than it is? Because I guess a lot of people struggle with this because what they're trying to do is they're getting clients to pay for their art projects.
Yeah.
I think that they have the wrong mentality they have the wrong lens where they think that they're getting paid to make their art. That's why they got hired, but that's completely separate from design.
But
Right.
I could feel their pain, kind of like you're making something that you personally inside think is trash and it's not good, and every day you're thinking about and working at it, and it just goes against what you think is the right thing to do, kind of.
So you have a couple of options. Let me caveat that. It's like, but you're getting paid. You're getting paid to do that. They're the ones who's footing the bill. They're the ones who's paying you for the service. If at the end of the day, you're making all of your best recommendations going forward, I feel like this is going to serve you better. I feel like this is hitting your goals better. You could do one of two things. You could just take what they're saying and do it and just get the job over with. Just don't give yourself any more stress, and then don't take any more work from that client, or just walk away from the job. It's just like, I feel like we're butting heads a little bit. I feel like, I'm trying to push something, but maybe it's just not on the same wavelength of what you're expecting. I don't want to waste any more of your time and money. Let's just end this relationship. It just makes more sense. I feel like you'd be better served working with another designer.
Yeah. In Michael Janda's book, Burn Your Portfolio, he has a whole chapter dedicated, I think it's titled Polishing Turds. Sometimes you just have to do it.
Right.
So I would suggest reading that. We got a couple more questions. Micah, thank you for the donation, $10. Really appreciate that. Okay, here's this question. Client is not sure they can pay his rate, but he's got the idea. Is there a way to talk them into doing it for free even after mentioning my rate?
Could you say that again? That was confusing.
That was really confusing. Okay. So he says, client's not sure that they can pay his rate, but he's got a good idea for the logo, and he wants to show it to him.
So he wants to make the logo for these people no matter
For free?
what it takes.
I think that's what his question is.
Regardless
Mike, if you
if
can clarify, that'd be awesome.
Right, like regardless if he's going to get paid or not. I mean, I would withhold that stuff and just hold on to it.
Yeah.
And just be like, let's get this business stuff sorted out first. Let's just make sure that all the books are in order. We can get paid, and then we can continue with this engagement. At that point, I would just stop, like resist all your urges and just stop. Because what could happen is, okay, they don't have the funds to pay you. You're going to spend hours and hours and hours creating this thing for them because you're excited about it. You turn it over to them. They could just steal it, or they could just say, no, we don't have the money, and you just wasted 10 hours of your life, which could have been invested towards getting a new client.
Yeah.
So why waste your time?
And then you show them the piece that's done, and they're like, oh, that's awesome. Can we have that?
Right. It's like, it's done already, right?
It's done. You put the time in. Can we have it?
Right. So I would just drop it. Just don't work on it. Yeah, that's one policy we have here at Blind. It's like, we won't work on anything until we get the first 50%. Until we have a PO that says we're going to get paid X amount of dollars for this engagement, then the work begins.
Yep, exactly.
Otherwise, we won't do anything.
Aaron, you got another one?
Yeah, okay, so here's one. Let's say you make a logo for a client, and he accepts it, and he's reasonably happy with it, and then they come back, and I guess they had an epiphany, and they want to change it pretty majorly.
If the contract's over, that just sounds like an overage. Like, we'd be happy to make this revision.
Right.
Since we're, already past the terms of the contract, this time, it's going to cost more money.
Right. It's like, and I would justify it. It's like, hey client, we've been through 3 rounds of this already, and you know how long that process took. It was really fun coming from the discovery session and boiling this down into these 2 marks that we've developed for you. So you know how long that process takes. It sounds like you guys want to go in a different direction, which I'm happy to do. It's still going to be the same kind of process where we need to take these 2 or 3 steps to get there. So in order for me to accomplish that, we need to go beyond the original scope that was proposed and agreed upon at the beginning, and I need to charge you a small overage to cover the extra 2 rounds or whatever.
That was pretty smooth, man. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
There's one good one from Mace.
Cool.
She asked, my question is, what do you do when there's a client who likes to micromanage? They email a list of changes, and in my head they need a production artist, not a design studio.
I've been there.
Mm-hmm. Micromanage. That's a tough one.
It's a tough one. I mean,
Yeah, usually, again, for me, it's like there's a point where I really try and care and help and want to help them with my best recommendations. And I always try to wrangle them back. If I get a list of 20 notes, I go back to the goals. Like, hey, I got these 20 notes. I just want to make sure that they're aligned and still focused on hitting these 3 goals that you had set out early on. Like, do all of these things hit it? And then both me and the client can work that out to try and filter filter that out.
Right.
If they're being a little stubborn and they're just like, no, just do it, and like they're disrespecting the process, then it's like, again, just fire the client. It's like at that point, it's like, I don't feel like I'm serving you. It doesn't really make sense for me. I feel like I'm wasting your time and money. Make it, again, about you. Like you're not able to fulfill their thing, and just walk away.
Yeah. I think it's probably indicative also of a positioning issue. How are you positioned in the engagement? Are you the expert? Are you the creative design team geniuses that are going to come in and handle everything for the client? Or are you positioned, and this is kind of on you, as the pixel pusher? So I would ask yourself on how am I positioned in this relationship, and then kind of go from there.
Right. So we are rounding out the hour right now.
Yeah.
I think we could spend maybe another 5 minutes. If there's any more like really good questions, Aaron or Ben.
Skycraft Collaborative, thank you for $5. I appreciate that, really. Means a lot.
I have a question here. I don't know if you guys touched on it already, so if you did, just ignore me. But how do you reject a client who has a low budget, but in a good way, so that maybe next time when they do have a bigger budget, it'll work out?
I think we already answered that question.
I
I
feel
mean,
like
it's
you did,
just
maybe.
like, we're not a good fit. Good fit is an awesome phrase to just keep in your mind. Like, keep saying good fit over and over
I
and
think
over
people
again.
want to hear these phrases you guys use
Yeah.
Right.
over and over. That
Listen, based on our minimum level of engagement, we're not really a good fit for this project. However, I can refer you to some other designers or even a platform, like say you want to refer them to Fiverr or Odesk and get them set up.
Right.
Depending on the level of engagement that they're comfortable with, make that referral. And if you're positioned as an expert, when they go and have a bad experience with those guys, they're going to come back to you and say, "Listen, you're right. I did this the wrong way, and I'm here. I'm ready to pay the money."
So
Right.
you do want to mention that. I've heard Chris say this, kind of say, call me when it doesn't work out.
Right.
Do you want to say
That
that?
stings a
No,
little.
He sounds a little stingy.
That-
Like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
want to
that's-
hear that.
He can
That's a little-
deliver it in a good way. I could never bring myself to probably say that, because that
Yeah.
sounds like I would get too angry or like there would be too much of sauce on that. I
Yeah.
think if I were to
Yeah.
say that.
When you're on the call with me, it's just like I'm reaching through the phone and giving you a big bear hug.
Yeah.
They can feel my beard rubbing up against their face. I'm just like, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry. I'll get you set up.
Yeah. But I mean, just to that point though, we have had clients where we said no because one particular project was just way below our minimum level of engagement, and they've come back. But the thing is, as soon as you say yes to being the cheap option, they'll only come to you because you're the cheap option.
Exactly.
And they'll never raise the rate. But if you say no to
Yep.
the low level
Yeah.
of budget, then they'll only come to you for the high. You're just sorting them out, you're filtering them out, and you're going to be a lot less stressed out.
And you know what, guys? They may never have the budget. However, they may have come to you with their side hustle. And who knows? Maybe they're like the director of marketing for a big Fortune 500 company. And so by you saying no to that level of budget, you're reclassified in their head as somebody that can do work at a certain level. And so you don't know who they know, who their brother-in-law is. These are all things to consider in positioning yourself.
Cool.
Chris said, if you guys want to see a preview of his confidence talk, head to the Futur's Facebook page, or go to NAB in Las Vegas. But check that preview out.
We just got $100 here.
No! Oh my gosh!
Look at that, $100, man. I'm
Thank
shocked
you.
Right now, dude.
Is there a
Thank you,
question?
man.
Is there anything we could do for
What
that
can
person?
I do for you,
I
man?
think their name is Thane. Thane. They say, keep it up. Love you guys. Love you too, man. Gosh.
We'll do a little like fist bump
Yeah,
through
fist
the
bump.
camera.
Here, we'll do it right here. Fist bump.
And then
Woo!
over there. Thanks
Okay,
so
guys,
much.
I think it's about time to wrap up.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up. I mean, if you guys obviously have more questions, just leave it in the comment section of the video below.
Yep.
And then we'll get into it in the after hours.
Yeah.
But before we leave, I want to make sure you guys have some resources that will help you continue this thought process and hopefully get you to a place where you're really comfortable on client calls and in meetings where you feel incredibly confident and that you're tackling these things so that you're not wasting any more of your time and you're getting exactly what you need out of these calls. So let's jump to some resources. There's a couple of videos here. So learning how to balance talking and listening. There's this one TED Talk by Celeste Headley, and 10 ways to have a better conversation.
Sorry, someone said we took the 100 and ran. Because like we ended the show.
It's like that was our quota for today. We are done.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
That's
Matt.
a good one. That's hilarious. Sorry. But there's this TED Talk by Celeste Headley. It's 10 ways to have a better conversation. It's a great 15-minute video. I highly recommend watching it. She's an interviewer, and she just talks about how to have better conversations. If you watch this video, she'll talk about the importance of listening, but also keeping the conversation going and making sure, like a lot of things we talked about today, being present.
Yeah.
So watch that video. I highly recommend it. We'll put that link in the description.
Matt, Chris wants you, if you don't mind, talking about the Fly Me to the Future real quick.
The climate?
Fly Me to the Future?
Fly me.
Contest. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We have
yeah.
a winner. I don't have her name handy, but we are going to fly her here. She's going to hang out with us for a full day, and we're actually going to open it up to anybody who wants to be here, hang out. We're not going to fly you. We're only going to fly this one person here.
The winner.
But if you want to pay your way here and the travel time, we'll hang out with you.
We'll
So,
host
come
you.
on.
We're going to
Yeah.
do it anyway for this one person.
We are
so-
going to post details of this event on our website in the blog, and then also announce the date and time and details via our email newsletter. So tune into that. Be sure you subscribe.
Cool. So back to the resources. One other thing, I wrote this article on Medium. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys. For those of you who are getting stuck on the call, leaving the call with fluffy words, right? Like epic and beautiful and elegant.
Modern.
Check out this link. I'm going to put this in the description also. And it just gives samples for how to dig deeper and ask the questions you need to make sure you have clarity walking
Yeah,
away.
and I want to kind of add one in here. It's a little bit unscripted, but going into the call, being in the right, like a power mindset is really important. And so I would recommend looking up Dr. Amy Cuddy on YouTube. She did an enormous TED Talk about power posing, and it gets you, in the right frame of mind to really kind of conquer a call. So
Get your body
look
in
that
the
up.
right frame of mind. Yeah, we'll add that link too. And then the last resource I have is the pitch kit, which I authored last year. And really what it is, it's a culmination of everything that I've learned over the years for how to tackle pitches. And what this is basically is, how do you handle the kickoff call? How do you ask the right questions so that you get exactly what you need? How do you turn that into a creative brief so that you can walk away and make something, or your team can walk away with something very clear for them to make? And then how do you pitch that back to them? How do you present that idea so that it hits on all the goals that the client wants? So in the kit, you'll see a bunch of examples of past pitches that I've done. You'll get a collection, I think, of 17 or 18 pitches, as well as a bunch of worksheets that you guys can print out and just take on your calls. So you just go box by box, you fill it in, you ask these questions,
Boom.
and you will have every bit of information you need to go and make something. So highly recommend that. Pick it up, and you can purchase that on thefuture.com.
Yep.
So then the last bit before we sign off, I know some of you always, for some reason, happen to miss all the live events.
Where's the call? How do I know about this?
How did I miss it? How did I miss it?
this?
So,
Oh, God.
so there's two ways to, or probably the best way to get notification is sign up for our email list. If you go to thefuture.com and you scroll down to the bottom, there's a little entry there. Just put in your email, and you'll get a weekly newsletter from us just telling us what the next live topic is going to be, when it's going to be, and then some of the other things that are going on here at the Future.
Yep.
And then if you're on Facebook, you can follow us there, but just make sure when you are following us, you click this little thing and it says follow and then see first. It will always pop up the next time you go to Facebook and log on to there. It will show you any recent updates from the Future page.
Yeah. For you guys who are last minute planners, it's cool. I'm like you. There is a button. It looks like this. Ding. And it lives on the Future homepage on our YouTube channel. If you click that, you can get alerted to when we go live and when we launch videos.
It will
it's just
email you.
Yeah,
It'll just
emails. I think there's a way that you can get it to text you too. So
Wow.
do that. All right, guys. I think that's it.
That is it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and on to the next
Till
one.
next time.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.